Hello, my name is Raymond Epps, and this is my Discourse community project. My community that I studied was religious studies or applied theology. It's kind of a really broad branch of a community because it captures so many different religions. And what I focused on mainly was the Christian aspect and pastoral ministry. That actually leads me into my interview, which was with David Mark Grabowski. He's involved in pastoral ministry in Northern California. He travels a lot and really has a broad network. So it was really nice to be able to talk to him about how the interaction between the different scholarly people in a community kind of works. So majorly, my biggest learning curve in this was the idea that these religious articles and journals aren't based off of as much empirical data and scientific data and the more tangible, concrete evidence that other communities use to base their literature on. The theology community more or less uses what other parts of the community have used. They take ideas, concepts, and create them from primary resources and then use the primary and the secondary resources to back that up. And I thought that was really interesting, kind of looking at the way that there's not a great way to prove that Jesus Christ existed with empirical data. It can be done, it's been done, but as the argument goes on for thousands of years, the recent and current literature is mainly just evolving what the other people in the community have said and taking it to the next level and manipulating what other people have said. So I thought that was really interesting. Another thing that I learned was that to be able to write this kind of literature, you have to be have a very specific skill of being able to take what's in your mind, a very complex thought, and write it down in a way that other people will be able to easily understand it. These theologians and these pastors and things like that are taking these very complex ideas that are in their heads and putting them down on paper, and it really amazes me the way that even I can understand it. And they're very complex metaphors and ideas that should be very difficult to understand, but I think there's a real skill that's present in this kind of literature, and that's being able to explain that out in a way that others can understand. Because if others can understand it, like I said earlier, the empirical data and the scientific method isn't there to back it up in a way that they'll be able to get the picture anyway. So what else I would like to learn is definitely more about how the community kind of researches and communicates with each other on a less literature-based level. I see an article that I used, and there's almost 200 citations, and I wondered to myself if the writer sat down at his computer and did a Google search for historical Jesus, or if he went to a convention to get the information, or to a library. How do they obtain that information? Do they email each other to get all those different books and sources? Because I doubt that he had 200 different citations sitting on the top of his head of where he could get the information for his article. So I think that really amazes me, how much information they're using, and I want to know where it's coming from and how they're getting it. So that's kind of my biggest question, and that's where I'd like to research more, is how the information passes from one person to another on more of a broad spectrum and not just with the literature. So that is my Discourse community project, and thank you very much for listening.